Take a trip down memory lane with me. The daughter of the love and happiness man himself, Teenie as the world knew him. Mabon Hodges was his name, but I knew him as Daddy. Daddy grew up on the outskirts of Memphis, Tennessee. My mom was a native of Louisiana, and I am their biracial child, born in the 1960s with a story to tell. From abandonment to being denied paternity to being sought after for adoption by musical colleagues of my dad's and my church pastor, to growing up with the love child of Rufus Thomas, to Daddy's house parties, to Al Green's house, to Bobby Womack's house, to molestation, to looking for love in all the wrong faces, including living with the ex-brother-in-law of Marjorie Harvey, Steve Harvey's wife, to multiple marriages, to finding Christ, and later leading my dad and mom to an understanding of salvation, forgiveness, and repentance. It's story time.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining me again. Thank you for taking this trip with me down memory lane. I'm Tabitha, the daughter of the love and happiness man himself, Mabon Teenie Hodges, co-writer and lead guitar player of said song. It's story time. Daddy could smell death when he was young, and he credited it to the fact that he was born with a veil. I'm not sure how often he experienced episodes of smelling death, but I do understand he smelled death and then his grandfather died. Talk about a sixth sense. He asked God to take that gift away from him that felt like a curse, and I understand God did. I can only imagine what it could be like being able to smell a scent of death, because I've smelled unclean spirits on many occasions, and I've smelled sweet spirits a few times as well. And I like literally have smelled those spirits being in the house alone, and suddenly I'm walking in the atmosphere smells like I passed a grown man that hadn't had a bath in 30 days. And it's like, whoa, what's that? And I back up, and I went through that a few times. And then it was revealed to me, the spirit just let me know those are spirits. You can't see them, but they're there. So, and then recently, on a few occasions, I smell really sweet spirits in the atmosphere. I always wondered would I ever smell them, but now I know I'll smell the sweet along with the unclean, if you would. But I've also had my own experiences knowing or sensing death coming. My first experience was around with death being around the corner. I was at the age of 15, and it concerned one of my grandparents ultimately. And those details will be in my book of memoirs to come. However, Daddy also had vivid dreams that would come true. I also received that gift from Daddy too. He asked God to take that gift away as well, as did I. And God did it for both of us. Like being able to put rhyme to reason in your dreams is kind of spooky when you wake up and it plays out in your daily life. And it's much different, much different from deja vu. Like deja vu is something that kind of is sprung upon you, but when you dream something and it comes true, um, there's just a different knowing in that. So those gifts, they're no joke whatsoever. But I'm gonna move along a little bit here. If you remember in the previous video, if you did see it, previous video, speaking of Dad being born in a veil, Aunt Freddie pictured here is the one that found my daddy in the trash can. Um, I always knew that she found him, but a cousin of his reached out and let me know that she actually did hear him crying. He was thought to be dead, stillborn, and Aunt Freddie heard him crying and got him out of the trash can and saved his life. I understand Aunt Freddie was also a seer. I've often been compared to her by Daddy and other family members. Um, And I did spend 90% of my time at Aunt Freddie's house when I would go to the country on Sundays as a little girl. And the other 10% of the time I would spend with Aunt Bill, pictured here, her sister. And my grandmother and grandfather lived in the middle of them. And I was just scared to go over there. And that's a whole nother story for another day. So I'll talk about that, I'm sure, eventually. But Aunt Freddie, again, here's Aunt Freddie. And then this is Aunt Bill, pictured here with one of her brothers. I'm not sure if it's Uncle Tommy or Uncle Robert, but he looks a whole lot just like my grandfather, who was also her brother. But the two of them, I understand also, they witnessed a UFO sighting in the country back in the day when there were no street lights. And I was told that they witnessed a UFO, a craft near an electrical line. There was electric poles, electricity, and said that the craft had an arc, if you would, a bolt of arc of energy, a bolt of energy going from the craft to the electrical pole, as if draining energy or drawing energy one from another or something. So I just find that to be amazing. Now, Aunt Freddie, she was real favorable with Daddy as well. He was really close to Aunt Freddie also, and Aunt Freddie was Roland Robinson's grandmother. Roland Robinson, a lot of you know, was Daddy's first cousin, but they were really more like brothers. I spent countless hours, days, hours, just lots and lots of time at Roland and his wife Deborah's house. I was either there with Daddy to see Roland, or I was there with my mom to see Deborah. And their son and I are still really close at heart to this day. But I really spent many hours and days over at Roland's with Daddy. I don't ever recall visiting any of Daddy's brothers' houses other than Uncle Fred with Daddy. Um, he would go to Uncle Fred's house, and he spent most of his time at Roland's house, and we would go to his twin sister's house, my Auntie Louise. So anyway, Roland was a bass guitar player and songwriter. Roland played with Jimi Hendrix, Buddy Miles, Rod Stewart, and also even with Willie Mitchell. Roland is also credited with co-writing Infatuation by Rod Stewart. Roland was not only um, musically inclined, he was innovative and futuristic. He made a bass guitar that weighed less than 5 pounds. And Roland was so futuristic that back in the 70s, when I was a really little girl, Roland would say, there's going to come a time that we'll be able to see each other on the telephone. Thus, what we call now FaceTime. And of course, I thought he was crazy if I knew what crazy was. And he was so enamored with the idea. He was so sure it would come and it would be. And lo and behold, it has come to be. So I just remember so much about Roland and being at his house and everything. I even remember having witnessed the evidence of the accidental gunshot that caused Aunt Freddie's death in the home as a little girl. So a family member was often wrongfully accused. I'll mention that in my book of memoirs also. But I actually witnessed the evidence that, clearly it was an accident. So, but yeah, Roland, he was, like I said, he was before his time. He was a bass player. He was also known as Quo. Roland had a group called Quo. Right here was Jerry Nars to the left. Forgive me for not remembering the man's name in the center and not doing the research before this video. But the group Quo is pictured here. So there you have it. Daddy could smell death. And Daddy also had vivid dreams, and they would come true. Not only was Daddy gifted, but Daddy was surrounded by very gifted people, and he passed many of his gifts on. Until the next teeny time story time. In Daddy's own words, what a world, what a world. Toodles